The rain-slicked streets of Manhattan gleamed like shattered glass under the sodium lamps as James Harlan burst through the revolving doors of his family's towering office building, his heart pounding a war drum in his chest. "You're dead to us, you filthy queer." His father's voice echoed in his skull. The words spat like venom just hours earlier during the boardroom ambush that had stripped him of everything. His inheritance, his position, his name etched on the family empire's letterhead. But as James flagged down a cab in the downpour, a single, reckless thought ignited like a flare. He'd burn it all down before letting them bury him alive. James slammed the cab door shut, water streaming from his soaked hair, and barked the address of a dive bar in Hell's Kitchen he'd heard about in whispers from the underground scene, places where men like him could breathe without apology. Inside, amid the haze of cigarette smoke and the low thrum of a jukebox crooning Sinatra, he locked eyes with William across the scarred wooden bar, a stranger with piercing blue eyes and a half-smile that cut through the chaos like a lifeline tossed into a storm. James nursed a whiskey neat, the burn in his throat a poor substitute for the fire raging in his gut. He'd always known his family, the Harlans, were old money wrapped in new suits, Harlan and Sons Realty, a behemoth that gobbled up blocks of Brooklyn brownstones and flipped them into luxury condos for the one-percenters who pretended Brooklyn was still gritty. But tonight, that empire had turned its jaws on him. His father, Reginald Harlan, had called the emergency board meeting under the guise of succession planning, only to unveil the trap. Surveillance photos from a weekend getaway in the Hamptons, James tangled in sheets with a guy he'd met at a gallery opening. "This ends now," Reginald had thundered, his face purple as a storm cloud. "You resign, or we expose you. No Harlan son will be the family disgrace." The board, mostly gray-haired cronies who'd golfed with his dad since James was in diapers, had nodded along, their silence a collective knife twist. His brother, Edward, the golden child with the MBA from Wharton and a wife who baked organic kale chips, hadn't even met his eyes. Just a curt, family first, Jimmy, as if James hadn't poured his soul into the company, scouting deals in the dead of night, charming investors over steak at Peter Luger. He'd been the visionary, the one pushing for sustainable developments in a city choking on concrete. But that meant nothing when the family secret slithered out. Now, in this bar that smelled of spilled beer and fleeting hookups, James felt the weight of invisibility lift just a fraction. The guy, William, he'd learn later, slid onto the stool beside him, ordering a gin and tonic with the casual authority of someone who owned every room he entered. "Rough night?" William asked, his voice low and smooth, like aged bourbon over ice. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a jaw that could cut glass and tattoos peeking from the cuffs of his crisp white shirt, remnants of a wilder youth. James guessed. "You could say that," James replied, forcing a smirk to mask the tremor in his hands. "Lost my job. My family. My whole damn life in one afternoon." William's eyes narrowed, not in pity, but in that sharp, assessing way that said he'd seen his share of wreckage. "Sounds like a clean slate to me. Name's William Tate. Lawyer by day, barfly by necessity. James Harlan." The name tumbled out before he could stop it, and for a split second, he braced for recognition. The Harlan Empire was plastered on half the billboards in Midtown. But William just raised his glass. "To reinvention." Then, they talked until last call, words flowing easier than the drinks. William was from a blue-collar family upstate, clawed his way through Columbia law on scholarships and grit, now specializing in corporate mergers at a boutique firm downtown. He had that effortless charm, the kind that made James forget the sting of betrayal for stolen moments. Stories spilled. William's first big case. Defending a queer artist against a homophobic landlord. James's secret sketches of eco-friendly high-rises he'd hidden in desk drawers. Dreams his father called hippie bullshit. Laughter bubbled up, raw and real. And when William's knee brushed his under the bar, neither pulled away. By the time they stumbled out into the pre-dawn chill, the city humming with delivery trucks and early risers, James felt something shift, a spark in the ashes. William hailed a cab, but before climbing in, he pressed a card into James's palm. "Call me when you're ready to fight back. I know a thing or two about contracts that bite." James watched the taillights fade, the card burning a hole in his pocket. Fight back? The idea was intoxicating, dangerous. He crashed at a buddy's walk-up in the East Village, the pull-out couch sagging under him like his resolve. Sleep came fitful, haunted by Reginald's sneer, Edward's averted gaze. But in the gray light of morning, with the acrid tang of yesterday's rain seeping through the cracked window, James made the call. William's office was a far cry from Harlan Tower's marble opulence, a third-floor loft in Soho, exposed brick walls lined with law tomes and abstract prints that screamed, "I have taste and a trust fund's worth of student debt." William greeted him with coffee black as sin and a grin that lit the room. "Tell me everything," he said, leaning back in a leather chair that creaked like an old friend's welcome. James did. The photos, the ultimatum, the exile. William listened without interruption, jotting notes on a legal pad, his pen scratching like Judgment Day. When James finished, voice hoarse, William set the pad down. "They're leveraging your sexuality as a weapon. Classic power play. But you're not powerless, James. You know their playbook inside out, their pending deals, the weak spots in their portfolio." James laughed bitterly. "And do what? Sue my own blood?" William's gaze held steady. "Or build something better. Start your own firm. Poach their clients. Turn their empire's shadow into your sunlight." The words hung there, a gauntlet thrown. Over the next weeks, it became their ritual, coffee-fueled strategy sessions that blurred into dinners at hole-in-the-wall Italian joints in Little Italy, where Chianti loosened tongues and hands found excuses to linger. William was a force, brilliant, unapologetic, with a laugh that rumbled like thunder and a touch that set James's skin alight. Their first kiss happened on a fire escape overlooking the Hudson, the city lights winking like conspirators, William's lips tasting of salt and promise. "You're not alone in this," he murmured against James's neck, fingers tracing the line of his collarbone. "We've got this." James dove in headfirst. By day, he scraped together seed money from freelance consulting, pitching his green building visions to skeptical developers in boardrooms that smelled of stale ambition. Nights belonged to William, their bodies mapping each other in William's king-sized bed, sweat slicked and urgent, whispers of "I need you" blending with the distant wail of sirens. It was messy, exhilarating, the kind of love that felt like rebellion. William handled the legalese, incorporating Harlan Green Ventures as a LLC, drafting ironclad NDAs that shielded James's ideas from prying eyes. Word spread quietly in the industry grapevine. A boutique hotel chain bit first, commissioning James for a net-zero retrofit in Chelsea. Then a tech startup wanted his blueprint for a solar-powered co-living space in Queens. Success tasted like freedom, sharp and sweet, but it came with barbs. Edward called once, voice oily with feigned concern. Dad's asking about you. Come home, Jimmy. We can fix this. James hung up without a word, the phone trembling in his fist. William was there that night, pulling him close on the couch, their legs tangled amid takeout containers. They're scared, he said, kissing the tension from James's brow. You're becoming the threat they always feared. As months bled into a year, Harlan Green Ventures wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. James's designs dotted the skyline, eco-havens amid the steel jungle, earning nods from the Times and whispers from investors. William's firm merged with a larger player, boosting his profile, but he stayed loyal, turning down headhunters who dangled partnership tracks. Their life wove together, lazy Sundays at the Union Square Green Market, hands brushing over heirloom tomatoes, stolen weekends in the Catskills, hiking trails where the air tasted of pine and possibility. But shadows lengthened. Reginald's empire, bloated on aggressive flips, started hemorrhaging cash, market shifts toward sustainability exposing their outdated playbook. Rumors swirled of a hostile takeover bid from a California conglomerate, Apex Developments, hungry for East Coast dominance. James's name surfaced in hushed calls, the upstart with the Midas touch in green tech. One crisp October evening, as leaves turned the parks to fire, William came home late, face drawn. Apex reached out, he said, loosening his tie. They want me to lead the acquisition team. Big money, James. Career-making. James's stomach twisted. And Harlan and Sons? William hesitated, that half-smile faltering. They're the target. But it's business. Clean. Above board. The word clean echoed like a lie. James pulled away, the space between them widening like a fault line. My family, Will. The ones who threw me out like trash. William reached for him, voice soft. I know. But this could be our shot, yours too. Apex is scouting partners for post-acquisition builds. Your designs could anchor it. Temptation warred with loyalty, a knife's edge. James wanted to believe it, to see the poetry in rising from the ruins on his terms. But as William's arms enveloped him, pulling him into the familiar heat, doubt seated deep. Was love enough to bridge the chasm? Or would ambition carve it wider? Winter clamped down on the city like a vice, snow piling in dirty drifts along the curbs, mirroring the frost creeping into James's heart. He threw himself into work, sketching late into the night by the glow of his drafting table, lines of sustainable steel and glass taking shape as if they could fortify him against the ache. William tried God. He tried, with home-cooked meals of risotto that stuck to the pan and tickets to off-Broadway shows where they'd hold hands in the dark, pretending the world outside didn't exist. But the Apex deal loomed, a specter at every meal, every touch turning tentative, like lovers circling a grenade. James met with Apex reps in neutral territory, a conference room in Midtown with views of the ice-choked East River. They were sharks in bespoke suits, led by a silver-haired exec named Carla Voss, her handshake firm as a contract clause. Your portfolio's impressive, Mr. Harlan, she said, flipping through glossy mock-ups of his Queen's project. We're disrupting the old guard. Harlan and Sons? Relics. Join us, and we'll make you untouchable. The flattery landed like hooks, but James's mind snagged on relics, his father's empire, crumbling under the weight of its own greed. He nodded along, signing a preliminary MOU for consulting, the pen heavy as lead. That night, Over Thai delivery in William's loft, he confessed. It's just advisory. No direct hit on Dad. William's fork paused mid-air. Eyes searching. Advisory leads to more. You know that. And you, James shot back, heat rising. You're knee-deep in their war room, drafting the kill shot. William set his fork down, deliberate. I'm protecting our future. Yours, mine. Imagine it, no more scraping by, no more looking over our shoulder at your family's ghost. The argument escalated. Words like shrapnel, ghost, they're flesh and blood. James roared. You think a paycheck erases that? William countered with logic. Cold and cutting. They erased you first. This is karma, James. Embrace it. They made up in the sheets. As they always did, bodies colliding in a frenzy of need and forgiveness. William's hands mapping the scars of old wounds. James's gasps a litany of "Don't leave me." Dawn found them entwined, breath sinking like a vow renewed. But the seed of distrust had sprouted, thorny and insistent. Spring thawed the streets, but not the rift. Harlan Green Ventures exploded. A profile in Architectural Digest hailed James as the queer architect reimagining urban America, complete with a candid shot of him and William at a fundraiser. Arms slung casual, smiles defiant. The piece went viral in niche circles, drawing hate mail from trolls, faggot-ruining real estate, but also a flood of offers. One stood out, a massive RFP from Apex for their flagship post-acquisition project, a mixed-use development on the very Bronx site Harlan and Sons had earmarked for a luxury mall. James stared at the specs in his office, now a sunlit space in Dumbo with interns buzzing like bees. The deal was a golden ticket, $50 million upfront, equity stake, his name in lights. But signing meant sealing his family's coffin. Reginald's company teetered, stock whispers turning to shouts, lenders circling like vultures. Edward had called again, this time desperate. Jimmy, please, talk to Dad. We're family, family. The word tasted like ash. James crumpled the voicemail transcript, but sleep evaded him. He wandered to Williams that night, finding him hunched over case files, tie askew, a half-empty scotch on the desk. Can't do it, James said, collapsing into the armchair. Not like this. William looked up, weary. It's not personal. It's the game. Then let's change the rules. James's voice cracked. Partner with me directly. Bypass Apex. We build something ours. William's laugh was hollow. With what capital? This is real money, James. Stability. Stability. James surged to his feet. Or a leash. Is this about us? Or your climb? The slap of silence stung worse than any blow. William rose slowly, closing the distance, his touch on James's arm electric yet pleading. It's about us surviving. I love you, fiercely, stupidly. But love doesn't pay the rent when the market crashes. They kissed then, desperate and devouring, tumbling to the rug in a tangle of limbs and shed inhibitions. William's mouth trailed fire down James's chest, hands gripping hips with bruising need, as if possession could mend the fracture. James arched into it, whispering endearments against sweat-damp skin, their release a temporary truce. But in the afterglow, curled against William's chest, James felt the lie, love was the battlefield now. As summer humidity thickened the air, the Apex deal crystallized. James signed, the conference room air-conditioned chill seeping into his bones. Carla Voss shook his hand again, eyes gleaming. Welcome to the future, Harlan. He texted William a single emoji, a clenched fist, and got back a heart. Simple. Deceptive. The fallout hit like a nor'easter. Harlan and Sons board convened in panic. Reginald's empire fracturing under Apex's bid. James watched from afar. News alerts pinging. Legacy firm faces hostile takeover. Guilt gnawed. A constant companion. But so did Vindication, the kid they discarded now wielding the axe. Then came the betrayal that gutted him. A tip from an old intern. William's firm wasn't just advising Apex. They were the silent architects of the takedown, with William personally vetting the kill clauses. Worse, a leaked email chain showed William pitching James's designs as leverage months ago, before their love had fully bloomed. The Harlan boys got talent, William wrote to Carla. And a grudge. Reel him in. James confronted him in the loft. Printouts clutched like evidence in a trial. Was I ever more than a pawn? A way to gut them from the inside. William's face drained of color, but his voice held steady. It started that way. A case file crossed my desk, your name, your potential. But James, you changed. You changed me. Liar. The word exploded. James hurled the papers, watching them flutter like dying birds. You used me. Our bed. Our dreams. All bait. William stepped forward. Desperate. I fell for you. Hard. This deal is tainted now. I'll walk. Too late. James backed toward the door, chest heaving. You said we'd fight together. Instead, you stabbed me in the back while I was still bleeding from the first wound. The door clicked shut behind him. A guillotine's fall. James fled to a hotel in Tribeca, the room sterile and echoing, where he curled into the fetal position and sobbed until dawn. Betrayal layered on betrayal, family, lover, self. The city outside pulsed indifferent, a concrete heart that had no room for his ruin. Weeks blurred in isolation. Harlan Green shuttered its doors temporarily, staff on furlough, Reginald suffering a mild stroke from the stress. Edward's frantic call confirmed it, laced with accusation. This is your fault, Jimmy. Blood on your hands. James hung up, numb, and poured his grief into work, finalizing Apex blueprints with mechanical precision. Success mocked him now, hollow as a promise. William's texts piled up, apologies, please, declarations of love scrawled in frantic prose. I was wrong. Come home. We fixed this. James deleted them unread, but each ping was a fresh cut. Love, he'd learned, was a contract too fine print hidden in the passion. By Labor Day, the city baked in unseasonal heat, tempers flaring like firecrackers. Apex's bid closed. Harlan and Sons acquired in a fire sale. Reginald forced to retire in disgrace. James's development broke ground. Hard hats snapping photos for press releases, but victory tasted like bile. He stood at the site, wind whipping his jacket, staring at the earth movers scarring the soil, and wondered if triumph was just another cage. Then, a knock at his temporary office door. William, disheveled in chinos and a faded tee, eyes red-rimmed. I quit the firm. Turned down the bonus. It's over, James. All of it, if you'll have me. James's throat tightened. Why? Because losing you gutted me worse than any deal. William's voice broke. I was scared of failing, of not providing. But I failed us instead. The air thickened, charged. James crossed the room, stopping inches away, the scent of William's cologne a ghost of better nights. "Prove it," he whispered, and William did, dropping to his knees, not in supplication, but in raw honesty, hands framing James's face as their lips met, tentative then torrent, a dam breaking. They didn't rush back to what was. Instead, slow rebuilds, therapy sessions in Chelsea, where James unpacked the Harlan scars and William confessed his own, a closeted youth in a mill town, where love was a luxury ration thin. Walks in Prospect Park, hands linked defiantly, feeding ducks stale bread as they plotted a new venture. Tate Harlan Partners, green-focused, independent. Fall painted the leaves gold, mirroring the fragile thaw. One evening, atop the nearly completed Apex building, now rebranded under James's vision, they stood shoulder to shoulder, city sprawled below like a conquered kingdom. William slipped a key into James's palm. "My place. Ours. No strings. Just us." James turned, pulling him close, the skyline blurring in his periphery. "No more games. Never again." William's kiss sealed it, soft and sure, the kind that promised tomorrows. But as winter loomed once more, James couldn't shake the whisper. Redemption was a draft, subject to revisions. The grand opening of the Apex redevelopment, now the Harlan Legacy Towers, a nod James insisted on, laced with irony, drew the city's elite like moths to a flame. Champagne flutes clinked under crystal chandeliers recycled from a deconstructed warehouse, the lobby a verdant atrium of living walls and solar-filtered light. James moved through the crowd in a tailored navy suit, shaking hands with developers who'd once snubbed him, their compliments syrupy. "Visionary work, Harlan," he smiled, teeth gritted, William a steady anchor at his elbow, his hand warm on the small of James's back. Reginald's absence loomed large, a ghost in the room. Edward had shown, impeccably dressed but hollow-eyed, nursing a club soda by the bar. Their eyes met across the throng, a current of unresolved fury crackling. James excused himself from a cluster of investors, weaving toward his brother, heart a staccato beat. "Jimmy," Edward said, voice pitched low, extending a hand that James ignored. "You did this." "We did," James corrected, voice even. "Your board's greed. My persistence." Edward's laugh was bitter, eyes flicking to William. "And him? Your knight in shining armor?" Heard he orchestrated the whole thing. James's blood iced. "Old news. Water under the bridge." "Is it?" Edward leaned in, Scotch breath hot. "Dad's in rehab upstate, stroke complications. Selling the Hamptons place to cover debts. All because you couldn't let go." The words landed like punches, each one bruising deeper. James glanced at William, laughing with Carla Voss, oblivious, and doubt surged anew, a tidal wave threatening to drown their fragile peace. "Family first, right?" James echoed Edward's old mantra, turning away before the tears could betray him. Outside, the November chill bit sharp, the party hum muffled by glass doors. James lit a cigarette, a vice resurrected from stress, pacing the plaza where fountains danced in LED glow. William found him minutes later, concern etching his brow. "Hey, Edward." James exhaled smoke, the cloud curling like unspoken accusations. "He says you're the villain." "That I am." William sighed, plucking the cigarette away and stubbing it out. He's lashing out, protecting the myth. And if it's true? James's voice trembled. If I am the villain, the son who torched his legacy for spite? William cupped his face, thumbs brushing stubble. You're the survivor. The one who built beauty from their bullshit. That's not villainy. That's grace. They kissed under the marquee lights, slow and grounding, but James pulled back, the gala's laughter spilling out like mockery. That night, in their bed now truly theirs, with James's sketches pinned to walls and William's law books stacked haphazardly, they made love with a reverence bordering on penance. William's touches were worshipful, lips tracing the map of James's ribs, murmurs of "You're my home" vibrating against skin. James clung, release crashing like catharsis, but sleep brought dreams of burning towers, his father's face melting in the flames. The holidays amplified the cracks. New York decked in tinsel and twinkling lights, but James's world dimmed. Invites poured in gala after gala, but he demurred, citing deadlines, while William schmoozed, his star rising in legal circles. Network, babe, William urged over eggnog at a rooftop soiree. This is our era, our era. James nodded, but isolation gnawed. He visited Reginald alone, the upstate facility a sterile maze of beige walls and beeping monitors. His father lay frail, tubes snaking like accusations, eyes sharpening at James's entrance. Come to gloat. No. James sank into the vinyl chair, the squeak echoing. To say, I'm sorry. For the pain. Reginald's chuckle rasped. Sorry? You destroyed us. For what? Some fairy tale romance. James flinched, but held ground. For me. For living true. Silence stretched, thick as fog. Reginald's hand twitched, arthritic fingers brushing James's. I was wrong. Scared. The world. It chews up boys like you. The admission cracked something in James, a dam of resentment bursting. Tears fell unbidden, Reginald's joining in a rare vulnerability. Forgive an old fool? His father whispered. Not yet, James said, squeezing the hand. But maybe someday, driving back through snow-dusted highways, wipers slashing rhythm, James called William, voice thick. I saw Dad. Complicated. William's response was immediate, warm. Proud of you. Meet me at home. I've got mulled wine and that terrible Hallmark movie you love. Home. The word settled like balm. They spent Christmas Eve tangled in fairy lights, William's guitar strumming carols off-key, James's head on his thigh, fingers idly tracing tattoos. Remember our first bar night? William mused. You looked like a drowned rat, but fierce. James smiled. Genuine. You saved me. We saved each other. William's kiss lingered, deepening into the night's quiet hunger, bodies moving in syncopated grace, slow grinds, gasped names, a reaffirmation etched in sweat and sighs. New Year's brought resolutions and revelations. Tate Harlan Partners launched with fanfare. A modest office in Williamsburg, clients lining up for their hybrid model of green law and architecture. James thrived, his designs earning awards, a AIA nod for innovative urbanism, while William's ethics seminar on queer contracts, building equitable futures, packed auditoriums. Their life synced. Mornings with the Times over oat milk lattes. Evenings debating case law over craft IPAs at neighborhood dives. But spring unearthed the next fracture. A whistleblower from Williams' old firm leaked docs. Not just the apex pitch, but Williams' private notes, detailing how he'd groomed James as an asset, complete with timelines synced to their budding romance. The story hit page 6. Power couple or power play? Harlan Ayre's lover in Scandal. Splashed with pap shots of their gala kisses, twisted into tabloid sleaze. Reporters swarmed their brownstone, mics thrusting like spears. James barricaded inside, phone exploding with notifications. Support from queer allies, vitriol from trolls. Edward's curt text, "Told you." William paced, furious. "It's bullshit." Out of context, Prius. Context, James' world. Betrayal fresh as a wound reopened. "You wrote it. Planned it." William stopped, deflating. "I was ambitious. Hungry. But I stopped. Chose you." Chose? Or calculated? James's voice shattered. The argument raged. Furniture shoved aside. Words weaponized. "I trusted you. You trusted a ghost." It ended with James storming out, crashing at a colleague's in Bushwick. The subway's rumble a poor lullaby. Days bled into a week of radio silence. James burying in blueprints, each line a barrier. William's voicemails piled, raw, broken. "I hate myself for hurting you. Therapy. Solo now. Please." James listened in the dead of night, heart fracturing. Love wasn't linear. It was a labyrinth, twists hiding traps. He showed at the loft unannounced, finding William mid-yoga, downward dog into despair. "I read the notes," James said, door clicking shut. "All of them." William rose, sweat sheened, eyes haunted. "And you're an asshole." James crossed the room, fisting William's shirt. "But you're my asshole." The collision was cataclysmic. Kisses bruising, hands clawing, a purge of pent-up fury into passion's forge. They collapsed against the wall, William lifting James with ease, legs rapping as thrusts met moans. Release a exorcism of doubts. Panting after, foreheads pressed, William whispered, "I'll burn every file." "Swear." James nodded, spent. "We start clean. No more secrets." Summer solstice found them at a pride rally in the village, rainbows fluttering like flags of surrender. Hand in hand through the throng, they danced to bass-thumped anthems. William's body pressed close, hips swaying in sync. "This," James shouted over the din, "this is us." But as fireworks burst overhead, Reginald's call pierced the joy. "Stroke 2. Come quick." The hospital room reeked of antiseptic and finality. Machines a dirge. Reginald, gaunt and gray, gripped James's hand with surprising strength. "Proud, son." Finally, his gaze shifted to William, hovering. "Take care of him, or I'll haunt you." Laughter bubbled, tear-choked. Reginald slipped away at dawn, monitors flatlining to elegy. The funeral was a media circus, old money mourning, whispers of scandal, but James and William stood tall, arms linked, Edward's eulogy stumbling over complicated legacy. Grief bound them tighter, nights of shared sobs evolving to solace. William's arms a harbor, James's stories a bridge over sorrow. Fall's harvest brought harvest of their own. Tate Harlan's first major win, a city contract for affordable green housing in the South Bronx, lauded by the mayor at a presser where James spoke, voice steady, "From ashes, we rise. Together." Yet, as leaves fell, A letter arrived, anonymous, postmarked Albany. Inside, a photo, James and William at the rally, circled in red, with scrawled threat, "Your kind ends here." Homophobia's echo, a reminder that battles lingered. William paled, but James burned. "They want a fight? We'll give one." The threat letter ignited a powder keg, but instead of fear, it forged steel in their spines. William, ever the lawyer, filed reports with NYPD's hate crimes unit, his contacts pulling strings for discreet surveillance. James channeled rage into advocacy, partnering with queer nonprofits for a Safe Spaces initiative, his designs now fortresses of inclusivity, with panic buttons in lobbies and rainbow-lit common areas. The media spun it gold, Harlan's redemption, from family feud to frontline hero. Publicly, they were unbreakable, photo ops at ribbon cuttings, William's arm a possessive drape over James's shoulders, their kisses captured for clicks that funded causes. Privately, paranoia crept, shadowed figures on stoops, tires slashed in the night. Sex became a ritual of reclamation. Fierce, uninhibited, William pinning James to the kitchen counter at 2 a.m. Growls of mine punctuating thrusts. James's nails raking backs as if marking territory. "No one takes us," James gasped, climax shattering the tension like glass. Edward re-emerged, tentative olive branch extended over coffee at a neutral Starbucks in Flatiron. "Dad left you something," he said, sliding an envelope. Inside, a codicil to the will, bequeathing James the family archive, blueprints from Harlan and Sons' glory days, Reginald's handwritten notes on deals that built the empire. He said, "Use it. Honor it." James's fingers trembled, tracing his father's spidery script. "Why now?" Edward shrugged, eyes softening. "Grief's a hell of a teacher. And seeing you happy, real. It humbled me. Forgiveness wasn't fireworks. It was this, awkward sips of overbrewed drip, shared stories of childhood Christmases before the fractures." Edward met William, handshake firm. "Hurt him, and blood won't save you." William grinned. Noted, as winter's grip loosened into tentative bloom, Tate Harlan boomed. A TEDx invite for James, queer resilience in concrete jungles. His talk weaving personal exile with urban renewal, ending in thunderous applause. William watched from the front row, eyes shining, their post-talk celebration a blur of hotel champagne and silk sheets, bodies entwined in lazy exploration, fingers teasing, tongues tracing lazy circles, laughter bubbling amid moans. But success summoned serpents. The anonymous threats escalated. Vandalized office windows scrawled with slurs, a brick through their brownstones bay. NYPD traced it to a disgruntled ex-Harlan employee, a bigot fired in the acquisition purge. But the arrest felt hollow, a symptom, not the disease. "America's heartland hates us," William muttered over takeout lo mein, chopsticks abandoned. "City's just the veneer." James pulled him close, chin on shoulder. "Then we peel it back. Make space." Their next project, a community center in Harlem, LGBTQ+ focused, with pro bono legal clinics and art studios. Funding flowed from allies, celebrity donors, tech bros seeking redemption arcs. Groundbreaking was a spectacle. Drag queens wielding gold shovels, rappers freestyling anthems. James and William center stage, dirt-caked and beaming. Midsummer heat wave baked the city, tempers simmering. A rival firm, shadows of Harlan's old guard, Leaked Dr. Docs implying Tate Harlan skimmed grants, a smear to derail the center. Reporters hounded. Headlines screaming Empire's revenge? William dove into counter-litigation. Days blurring into all-nighters. His return home exhausted, collapsing into James's lap. "We'll sue them to kingdom come," he vowed, but fatigue etched lines around his eyes. James massaged tense shoulders, lips brushing nape. "Hey. Breathe." The massage morphed, hands wandering lower, unbuttoning shirts with intent. William yielded, turning to claim James's mouth, the couch creaking under their weight as clothes shed in a trail. It was tender this time, William on top, slow rolls of hips, eyes locked in whispered confessions. "I can't lose this." "You." James's response was arch and gasp, legs locking ankles, their shared peak a quiet anchor amid chaos. The lawsuit cleared them in weeks, vindication sweet, but scars lingered, trust in institutions frayed. Fall brought harvest festivals and a personal bloom. William proposed on a whim, during a foliage hike in the Palisades, ring a simple platinum band engraved, "From Ruins." James said yes through tears, the kiss tasting of cider and forever. Wedding planning infused joy, a small affair in the Catskills, officiated by a queer rabbi, vows exchanged under maples aflame. Edward walked James down the aisle, a leaf-strewn path, his I-do choked. "Love you, brother." The reception was raucous, fire pit toasts, line dancing to Dolly, William twirling James under stars. Their first dance a sway to At Last, bodies flush, world fading. Honeymoon in Provincetown, salt air and dunes, days biking trails, nights in a lighthouse B&B where waves crashed like applause. They made love with the windows open, ocean symphony underscoring cries, William's hands everywhere, possessive, adoring. "Husband." He tested the word post-climax, grinning against James's chest. "Fit. Perfect." Back in the city, life accelerated. Tate Harlan's portfolio swelled, a retrofit for MoMA's Annex, eco-luxury pods in Hudson Yards. James's book deal landed, Rising Ground, a queer architect's manifesto, ghostwritten nights with William editing margins, their collaboration seamless. Public life dazzled, panels on CNN, where James outed the industry's homophobia with eloquence that trended Harlan truth. But December's chill heralded storm. The anonymous harasser, out on bail, escalated, a pipe bomb threat to the Harlem Center, forcing evacuation mid-construction. NYPD swarmed, but damage was psychic, workers spooked, donors wavering. James addressed the crew at dawn, voice steel, "Hate wants us scared. We build louder." William, meanwhile, uncovered ties, the perp bankrolled by a Harlan holdout, a cousin nursing grudges. "Family gift that keeps giving," he quipped darkly, but his hands shook filing the injunction. New Year's Eve found them on their rooftop, city fireworks a defiant burst. Champagne raised, James toasted, "To us unbreakable." William's kiss was fierce, pulling him down to the lounger, coats discarded in the cold bite. Under blankets, hands roamed urgent, breaths fogging air. They're joining a celebration of survival, William's rhythm deep, James's pleas urgent, stars wheeling above as they shattered together. Spring 2026 bloomed resilient. The center rose, named Reginald's Refuge in ironic tribute, green spaces for healing, murals of queer icons. Opening gala, stars, speeches, James and William cutting the ribbon, hands intertwined. Yet, as confetti fell, a call from Edward, cancer. Stage 4. Dad's genes, they say. The world tilted. James drove upstate alone, William respecting the space, finding Edward in a hospice overlooking the Hudson, skeletal but smirking. Karma's a bitch. Ha! James sat, gripping the bed rail. We'll fight it. Edward shook his head. Time's up for me. But you. Keep rising. For both of us. Tears flowed. Stories shared, boyhood forts. Stolen beers. Regrets aired like laundry. I was blind, Edward admitted. Scared of what you represented. Freedom I craved. Forgiven, James whispered, hugging fragile bones. Edward passed a week later, quiet as snow. Grief doubled down, but William halved it. Nights holding James through sobs, mornings coaxing smiles with burnt pancakes. Their love deepened, roots entwining. A quiet anniversary dinner at that first dive bar, where William knelt again, renewing vows with a sapphire ring. Eternity looks good on you. Summer's heat peaked with triumph. James's book hit bestseller lists. Proceeds funding scholarships for queer youth in design. Tate Harlan inked a national chain, branches sprouting like hope. But autumn winds carried whispers. A new threat, slicker corporate sabotage, rivals poaching clients with undercuts. William traced it to Apex insiders, bitter over the rebrand. Betrayal 2.0, he joked, but eyes were grave. James faced it head-on, testifying at City Hall for anti-hate ordinances. His voice a clarion. We're not victims. We're the vanguard. The sabotage peaked in a boardroom coup attempt. Leaked emails framing Tate Harlan for bid rigging, timed for a crucial city contract renewal. Chaos erupted, audits, headlines, investor pullouts. William burned midnight oil in crisis mode, depositions flying like arrows, while James rallied the team, huddling in the Williamsburg office over cold pizza and caffeine IVs. We've beaten worse, he rallied, eyes locking on William's weary face across the table. This is our crucible. Sleep became a luxury, stolen in catnaps on the office futon, where exhaustion blurred into intimacy. Quick, desperate unions against filing cabinets. William's belt unbuckled in haste. James's gasps muffled against shoulder. We endure, William panted, thrusts a punctuation to resolve. The truth surfaced in a whistleblower's affidavit. Apex execs, Carla Voss at the helm, green with envy over the rebrand's success. Lawsuits flew bidirectional, but Tate Harlan's transparency, open books, ethics audits turned the tide. Voss resigned in disgrace. The contract secured. Headlines shifting. Queer powerhouse prevails. Vindication was Pyrrhic. Scars adding texture to their bond. Fall deepened. Leaves carpeting parks in crimson elegies. James and William escaped to the Cape for a reset. Windswept beaches. Clam shacks. Nights in a driftwood cottage where firelight danced on skin. They walked hand in hand at dawn. Waves lapping ankles. William's proposal echo in every shared silence. What now? James asked, toes digging sand. Everything, William replied, pulling him flush. The cottage bed welcomed them. Sheets rumpled from lazy afternoons. Their lovemaking a symphony, slow builds, teasing edges. William's mouth a revelation on James's most intimate landscapes. Cries swallowed by sea roar. Back home, legacy beckoned. Reginald's archive yielded gems. Forgotten patents for modular housing. Harlan ingenuity buried under hubris. James revived them, patenting under Tate Harlan. Launching a non-profit arm, Harlan Horizons, affordable eco-homes for LGBTQ+ families displaced by gentrification. Edwards Trust funded the seed. Posthumous amends. Winter Solstice Gala for Horizons. A warehouse turned wonderland. Fairy lights and queer carolers. James spoke. Voice resonant. My family taught me ruin. You us. Teach redemption. William's toast followed. Arm around James. To the man who rose and pulled me up with him. Cheers erupted. But later, in a quiet alcove, William knelt, not in jest but earnest, kissing James's knuckles. Marry me again? Yearly, if needed. James laughed, tears pricking. Idiot. Once was enough. Their dance floor sway turned private. Bodies close, whispers intimate amid the crowd's blur. Homeward, snow falling soft, they made love by the tree's glow, gentle, profound. William's reverence in every caress, James's surrender a gift. Forever, they breathed in unison, peaks sinking like stars aligning. Spring 2027 heralded new chapters. James's second book, co-authored with William, Contracts of the Heart, Love, Law, and Legacy, top charts, a manifesto blending memoir and manifesto. Tate Harlan expanded westward, a Seattle outpost where they honeymooned again, rain-slick streets echoing New York's firsts. Challenges persisted. A trans intern's harassment suit against a client, testing their ethics, market dips threatening grants. But unity prevailed, boardroom battles by day, bedroom reaffirmations by night, William's strategic mind complementing James's visionary fire. One muggy July eve, atop their latest project, a rooftop garden oasis in Midtown, they hosted a sunset soiree. City lights twinkled below, guests mingling. Edward's widow with their niece, a toddler with Harlan curls, queer mentors who'd paved paths, even a reformed Harlan cousin, toasting awkwardly. James pulled William aside, Skyline their witness. They said I'd never succeed. William's grin flashed. And here we are ending empires, starting revolutions. Together, the kiss sealed it, deep and declarative, hands framing faces as if etching vows in flesh. Guests hooped, but the world narrowed to them, two men, scarred and soaring, love a contract unbreakable. Years folded like origami. Horizons housed hundreds, James keynoting at Davos, William arguing before SCOTUS on housing equity. Fatherhood beckoned late, a surrogate's gift, a boy named Theo Reginald Tate Harlan, with William's eyes and James's mischief. Diaper changes and playground chases wove domesticity into ambition. Nights tag-teaming bedtime stories of architects and advocates. On Theo's first birthday, in their sunlit Brooklyn brownstone, James watched William blow raspberries, laughter bubbling. We did good, he murmured, arms slipping around waist. Better than good. William turned, kissing temple. Epic. Dusk fell. Family photos snapped. The city humming lullaby. In bed later, Theo asleep down the hall. They connected slow, fingers interlacing, bodies aligning in familiar cadence, whispers of gratitude amid sighs. Release was quiet, profound, a testament to endurance. The Harlan name, once curse, became crown. Museums mounted exhibits, Scholarships bore it proudly. James reflected in his study, sketchpad open to a half-drawn skyline, towers intertwined, green veins pulsing. William peeked in, coffee in hand. Plotting world domination? World healing. James rose, pulling him into lap. Starting with you. Their kiss lingered, coffee cooling forgotten, hands resuming old maps. Outside, New York breathed, gritty, glorious. In the end, success wasn't the contract that felled an empire, but the one that rebuilt a life. Layered, loving, luminous. They said he'd never succeed. They were wrong. Not in triumph's blaze, but in love's quiet forge, where ruins birthed renaissance. And so, under star-pricked skies, James Harlan and William Tate wrote their epilogue. Not in ink, but in the unbreakable weave of two hearts, defying gravity, claiming the horizon,